Jack's with me. We're going to talk about the final, I guess they're technically 4 issues of Volume 1 of Tomb Raider, and one issue that feels like Volume 1 of Tomb Raider. So we're talking about the Colossal Collection, Volume 2, today. And also, both of these archive editions from back in the 2010s. We'll start with this one. So we're going to start with issue 49, which is written by James Bonney, and it's called Vendetta. Lara Croft has a final showdown with J. Bradley Allgood, who hires Lady Jasmine from the beginning of James Bonney's run on the comic to fight Lara in this obstacle course, Mayan pyramid, Aztec pyramid in South America, which is weird. Why is there an Aztec pyramid down there? And so Lara's basically lured into a trap, and we finally get a conclusion to James Bonney's run. What did I think of it? It's way too rushed. It's a little goofy, but it's satisfying enough. Bringing Lady Jasmine back for this was just kind of... I wasn't a fan. But I didn't like Lady Jasmine as the antagonist in her previous arc. So, I don't know. And the J. Bradley Allgood stuff, it should have been more than one issue. It probably should have been 4 issues. Could have had an epic climax, but issue 50 was not granted to James Bonney, which is weird. So, what would I rank issue 49? I give it a 4 out of 5. It's pretty good, but it could have been a lot better. Next, we move on to issue 50, and this is written by Dan Slott of Ruining Spider-Man fame. I don't like Dan Slott. We should get that out of the way. I kind of despise Dan Slott. He pioneered a lot of things in comics, specifically for Marvel, that I think have ruined Marvel as an IP. Constantly changing the status quo of Spider-Man for gimmick's sake, and then bringing it back to basics over and over again. And I get he was hired because JMS was going absolutely off the rails with his run of Spider-Man. I get why Brand New Day exists, and I get why people like it. I'm just not one of them. I like a comic that stays kind of consistent. But anyway, we're not talking Dan Slott's Spider-Man. We're talking about Dan Slott's Tomb Raider single issue. So the issue takes place way in the future, although the future is not the same as the Evo one-shot, which is way in the future as well from that event we looked at, it feels like months ago now. So Lara is long since dead, and Croft Manor has been turned into a museum. And the museum has a holographic Lara that is... she has a clever name about being pixels and blocky, because it's the original game sprite is doing the tours. And Dan Slott gets pretty clever with this, with... the games and films exist, but they are historical fiction, which is very fun. And each artifact, a group of thieves end up breaking into Croft Manor because the Croft Manor is going to be permanently closed, and all of the artifacts are going to be taken back to their original resting locations per world law or something. Anyway, this group breaks in, and we don't know what their intentions are, but the main guy that's that's their leader, he's telling all these stories about Lara Croft, and it would intercut to a different artist doing like a little story of her, um, of a little vignette adventure. It's a fun little story. There's actually a little laser trap they have to go through, and he does these moves in a sequential order similar to the infamous nude code, um, which like blew up the internet back in the 90s. So that's fun. There's a lot of fun nods to the overall um, arc of Lara Croft as a character. And it feels like a good end. There is a twist. I will not say what that twist is, but there is a twist on it. So, yeah, it's a fun one. It's a real fun issue. It's the best thing Dan Slott has ever written, and I stand by that. This one issue, it doesn't make up for the trite and ruining of Spider-Man that he did, but I mean, it's pretty damn good. I give it a solid 5 out of 5. It's pretty good. Next, we move on to a one-shot. Now, there are several Tomb Raider one-shots, and I've not been using the term one-shot correctly in these reviews. When I say one-shot, when I've said one-shot, I mean like a single-issue story. Like, it's just self-contained to one issue. One-shots are technically issues that they're not part of a series, but like, let's take Star Wars. Star Wars had a single-issue comic called Purge. And rather than being numbered, it was just called Purge One-Shot. That's a one-shot. Now, they did make other Purge comics later, but it was intended to be just a one-off thing. And so they did like several of these Tomb Raider comics. You can find them in the Colossal Collection 2, or in this Archives Volume 4. I believe all the solo Tomb Raider runs, because they also did ones where she teams up with Witchblade and other Top Cow characters of the time. But this one was called Origins, but the title of the story is not actually called Origins. If you look at the Colossal Collection, they call it Tripped Up. And with the Colossal Collections and the Archive editions, these collected editions of Tomb Raider, the Top Cow Tomb Raider comics, they typically do not number the issues within the collections. It's not like a Marvel omnibus. Dark Horse has never been like that. The fact that they even break these stories up at all is remarkable, because typically they don't. So when I number them for you, it's just for my sake, and I have to do research to figure out what's what. But I thought Tripped Up was the Wizard 1/2 issue. And you can understand why, because they're both written by Dan Jurgens, and they take place early on in the run. So let's talk about Tripped Up, aka Tomb Raider Origins, and start talking about the confusion. Tripped Up is about Lara and Chase Carver going on a little adventure to steal an idol, and they end up having to escape a bunch of traps. It's not a lot to it. It's fine. It's kind of fun after finishing this whole series to go back and like see, oh, this is an early adventure for her. It's not, calling it Origins is a misnomer, though. It's not an Origins story. It's not even a story with Lara and Chase prior to him screwing her over and out of her money and that precious artifact, which caused them to break up in the first place. This is after that. This is like an in-between adventure early on in the comic run. and it's just weird to call this Origins. I get why Dark Horse would call this Tripped Up. Um, it's better than calling it anything else. Um, and I should say, issue 50 was called Alpha Omega. Which, okay, whatever. Not a great title either. But yeah, Tripped Up. What did I rank that? I give it like a 4 out of 5 because it is nice to see them again. It reminded me a little bit of Wind Through the Keyhole, that Dark Tower book 4.5, which came out like a decade after the last Dark Tower book came out. It gave me that vibe a teeny tiny bit, that nostalgia vibe. We move on to Tomb Raider issue 0, which came out back in '01, and we're about '05 at this point, so like we're going back quite a bit. And this is written by Fiona Avery. And it's basically Lara is sent to find this Roman artifact that's cursed this Nordic town, village, basically. And she has to prove that she's worthy. It's a fun little one shot of Lara using Mac 10s on cursed Roman soldiers. It's pretty violent, but pretty fun. Um, is it great? Not really. It's kind of whatever. I didn't mind it, but it's very clear that Fiona Avery hadn't written any Tomb Raider, and it just doesn't. Her character's just not quite there compared to other authors. So, it doesn't have a lot of weight to it. As its own, like, one off adventure, it's fine. But being part of, like, Tomb Raider Volume 1, it's just kind of lacking. I give it a 3 out of 5. It's okay. And then finally, we get to the Wizards Tomb Raider half issue. So Wizard Magazine was a thing way back, um, in back in the day. I don't think Wizard Magazine exists anymore. But they would have these half issues. I've talked about some like a long time ago, um, with Rogue Squadron had a one half issue, I believe. I believe I reviewed that. Um, but yeah, they would do a lot of these. It's typically a Wizards half issue, although it could not be part of Wizard Magazine, but they typically did the half issues, and it reads like a Wizard half issue. Where this is Lara's definitive origin. Now, I'm going to go back a bit and discuss a problem that a lot of old school Tomb Raider fans have with Tomb Raider, the Angelina Jolie films, and the subsequent reboots, with her having mommy and daddy issues. With the films, it's daddy issues. Same with the Survive series. With the first reboot, those games, she has mommy issues, and it's just like her parents died, but that doesn't come from the Angelina Jolie films. They get wrongfully blamed for this. This technically comes from the comics. Dan Jurgens from the get-go gives Lara a sad origin with the plane that crashes that kills her fiance and parents, and she's stranded in the frozen wilderness. This delves into that again, and I say again because this was already dealt with in the Medusa Mask. The Medusa Mask basically covers all this, and this is Dan Jurgens coming back for this half issue, which came out in '01, so we're several years removed. And it's basically the framing device is she finds this like rare crown, and she ends up getting in a fight with an airplane, and she wins because she's Lara Croft with a really gross headshot. Like probably one of the goriest things from this first volume. I know that the Jason Bonnie issues got pretty bloody and gross, but this takes the cake. It's really gruesome, and like I normally wouldn't say anything because I read far more disgusting things. I mean, I just finished Stephen King's novel The Dark Half, which is just a disgusting book, and infinitely more disgusting than this. But it just is a little shocking because you don't expect that from this. I mean, you expect it now because she's like a psychopathic murderer in the Survive games. But like this, it's just like she shoots a dude in the face while he's flying an airplane. It's kind of ridiculous. But it flashes back to her as like a bratty teenager, and it's very weird. Um, she's just this privileged, spoiled rich girl that doesn't try at school and like only cares about doing gymnastics and shooting guns and fashion and partying. And then she meets her. We don't even get to see her meet her fiance. We cut to, because this issue is pretty short. We cut to like them on the plane and the plane crash actually happening, and her kind of learning to survive on her own. And it's bookended with like she had this when she was at boarding school, she had this history professor who said that she could do a lot better than she is doing, but she's just not applying herself. And she ends up sending him a letter at the end saying that he was right and that her life experiences have changed her for the better. Um, I get why Dark Horse put this after all these other issues, because this is part of Volume 1. With that being said, this is the worst thing Dan Jurgens wrote for this series. It's unnecessary. It's dumb in a lot of ways. Lara's kind of insufferable through most of it. I mean, when she's actually the Tomb Raider, she's fine. But it all the backstory stuff, it's just I'm a brat, blah blah blah, and then I got stranded in the wilderness and I had to fend for myself and survive until I found society again. It's weird. It's weird and bad. I don't know. I didn't like it. And I get why people don't like this type of story with Lara, because it's been done to death by now. And I get this is the first time we got this story. So I'm trying not to be super hard on it, but it's not the best version. I'd even take the first Survive game over this. And I'm not a big, as I've stated before, I'm not a big Tomb Raider Survive trilogy fan. I guess Dan Jurgens wanted to do like a juxtaposition to what she was to what she is now currently in that first comic series. And okay, he succeeds there, but I don't think it's that good. In some ways, the modern retelling is better, and that's saying something. What would I give this half issue? Give it a 2.5 out of 5. You like what I did there? Oh. Anyway, have a good one, everyone.